All right, welcome everybody. It is the top of the hour, and we are going to get underway here for the monthly educational Q&A. Good to see everybody here. Do some quick introductions. Adam Beckstead, partner, all things acquisitions.
Present.
Adam, how you doing today?
Wonderful. I'll call it the evening. The day has far surpassed us.
Indeed. And Robert, managing partner, founder, REM Capital. How's it going over there?
Good to be here. Suffering through the weather in Florida. Tough life.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking out over the tundra here today, thinking about you. So happy to be visiting here in not too long, like 8 weeks.
Right, yeah.
So, and I'm John Vandergiesen, by the way, partner and investor relations guru. So I'm sure I've talked to a few of you on the call today. Oh.
Robert, you got a vacuum back there?
Is that a train somewhere? Or?
Yeah. So we have a little train manufacturing downstairs. Every once in a while, they crank up the next boxcar.
Very good. All right. Well, let's start with what's going on with REM Capital. And Adam, you just came back from a big trip in the Midwest portfolio. Tell us a little bit about that.
I did. Actually, I've been taking trips about every other week to our Midwest portfolio. We have a lot to get accomplished there. We closed 7 properties to add to our portfolio, but all in a small distance. They're centered around Cincinnati. So getting on site, getting to see the people, meeting some contractors, checking up on some of the CapEx projects for the properties, and really just all around just seeing how things are going, seeing how the market's doing. It's a great trip, actually. Really reinforces a lot of great people that we have on staff, get to build that relationship and continue to build the sites, the communities there. But really getting to see all the great things that are happening. And one thing that I thought is just amazing is that the rents that we're able to get, we're hitting pro forma rents without really even having to do a lot of our interior renovations. So as we continue to roll out those renovations, it's just going to increase those rents even farther. So really great time. That's really portfolio wide. That's not just with the Midwest. So it's a really great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty landlords, terrible people.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on across the street from Heirlooms. I know that Robert had sent something out to us. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah. I don't remember how big that is, but a huge planned community is going in right across the street from Heirlooms of Cincinnati, which is one of the 7 properties that we acquired. Honestly, I wouldn't say it's my favorite property, but I love going there. This property was built in the 40s. I think, Robert, you said it was like the fort in 1948.
1949. Yeah, it was right after World War II. Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of a post-World War II planned community, one of its first of its kind. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Beautiful, just brick everywhere as far as the eye can see. It has copper gutters, copper accents around a lot of the doorways. Just super cool. I mean, just stuff that's not built nowadays. You don't get to see it. So I just love going there and seeing it and having this new project come in right across the street. And that property is just going to skyrocket in demand. And just, I was trying to just rough guess a per unit bump and what that community is going to experience from that announcement. Is pretty exciting.
Awesome. Really good stuff. And Robert, you also mentioned something about GE and what they're doing over there in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're doing some restructuring. So GE Aerospace is going to be headquartered in Cincinnati, which is nice. They've got a facility there currently, but they're not headquartered there. So that's going to be a little notch in the belt for the general Cincinnati MSA.
Yeah.
But, it's great.
Sorry, that's something that we do quite regularly is just, monitoring the markets that we want to be in and monitoring the markets that we are in, because we want to be on top of the good news and maybe not the not so good news as well. But that's good stuff.
Well, one of the other things too I was going to mention while we're on the subject of the Midwest, I know I put it in the CEO blog, but there's been government level interest, meaning federal level interest in figuring out a way to reshore or onshore semiconductor manufacturing. And the Midwest, surprisingly, you know, because you might think Southeast, whatever, but it's interesting. The Midwest is kind of becoming a sort of the primary place, and really more Ohio. I don't know about Indiana, but Ohio seems to be getting a lot of attention. Yeah, sorry, Adam. Indiana. No, I don't know why, but Ohio's getting a lot of attention for that. So that's kind of cool. You know, we've been talking about that for a long time, and I really think we're going to see more manufacturing come back to the U.S., and we're going to benefit from that being in that area. So kind of exciting too. I mean, I know that's more of a long-term trend, but we're planning to be in this space in the Midwest for a long time. So pretty cool.
Yeah, Intel has that huge plant that they're building just outside of Columbus, on the east side of Columbus.
Yep.
Giant facility.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you got some stuff moving to Austin too, but I think for the moving the needle effect, that, you know, putting a fab plant in Ohio is massive. You know, it's not that it doesn't count in Texas, but Texas is growing so fast that it's not quite a big impact. So anyway, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Adam. Robert, you also were out and about, a big whirlwind trip in Texas. Give us an update on what you saw out there.
Yeah, I just stopped by Houston. We just passed the 1-year mark on Westbury. Been doing a lot of work over there. That's been a major turnaround project, and it's actually looking pretty good. If you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have been sweating a little bit, but that's pretty par for the course. 6 months in, usually I'm like, oh boy, what did we get ourselves into? And then we just keep plugging along, and, you know, 12, 18 months later, you're thinking, all right, we're good. We're making it. So that's kind of where Westbury's at. We got the right team, got the projects in place. There's just, I mean, literally everywhere you look on that property, there's deferred maintenance. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed. You can't spend all the money in one shot. So you just have to bite it off one piece at a time. But it's coming along. So I'm excited about that. And then stopped over in San Antonio to check on our 2 projects there, Marbach, which is the one we just bought, and kicking things off. They were actually getting ready to do a resident, actually not even a resident, it was like a community event. It's pretty cool. They had vendors, street vendors that were coming over, barbecue, the whole 9.
Uh-oh.
I think he was going to say hold 9 yards.
Oh, I was wondering if I was the one that was frozen there.
No, there he is. No,
nope.
He's back.
He's there and back.
Oh, am I back? Okay.
One thing I'll say about the Indiana internet, I rarely drop. I'm just saying.
Adam, there's nobody there to interrupt the signal. So
there's too many people moving to Florida.
Yep, way too many people. Do not move here. It's terrible. Do not. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't know where I left off, but yeah, it was pretty cool to see the community event happening there in San Antonio.
I think you dropped off at food trucks.
Is my mic working?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just saying, I think it's great to see that community come together and, you know, reach out. A lot of access there with that property to the neighborhood, to the retail area. So pretty cool.
Awesome. Robert, maybe you can mention a little bit about what's going on with the development projects too.
Yeah. Well, so we've got Lake Vista, our first one that is in construction. We've finished most of the horizontal, about a third of the vertical. Hopefully 90 days we'll have our clubhouse, the first building, finished. We're a little bit behind schedule right now, just various issues, including our lender who effectively ran out of money. So that's been interesting. Trying to work through that. Not that that's never happened before, but, you know, it's part of the business. You got to pivot. But getting that figured out. And then our other project, our 72-acre project in San Antonio, that one's coming along really well. We are just about wrapped up with the county in getting everything not permitted, but approved. And kind of worked out to our benefit. The Texas DOT, they're redoing this big loop 1604 around San Antonio. And they actually moved the off-ramp to where you literally will be able to get off that. I mean, this is a major six or 8 lane loop. I think it's an 8 lane actually. You're going to be able to get off and literally pull into our. It's not a complex; it's an entire, multi-use property. But it's super cool. I mean, the access is just, you couldn't pay for it. So that's worked out well. And then we saw the first renderings of the 3D model of the building, so that was kind of cool too. That's coming along. And then, of course, the St. Pete, Florida development that we're going to be kicking off here in a week and a half, weekish, whatever it is.
A week tomorrow.
Week tomorrow. There you go. Yeah, the first. So that was pretty cool. Being in downtown St. Petersburg, obviously the cost per pound is a little higher, not surprisingly, but the upside, the demand, the market, I mean, gee whiz, you talk about hitting all the metrics. So kind of cool. Definitely excited about that. Very, very, positive about the growth that's happening in Florida and being able to capture some of that upside. And, the nice thing is when you're building it, you're not building it and then having to deal with a 3 cap valuation. You're building it and you can, essentially own it at a 6 cap. So a lot of folks don't think about that. But from the development side, yes, it's a little bit riskier on the front end, sure, because, theoretically the economy crashes and you're sitting there with an asset that's half full. Which, I mean, in this day and age, in this market with the demand, that's pretty unlikely. But anyway, so it's really the only way that you can get a nice A-class asset in a market like St. Petersburg that actually cash flows. So I'm super excited about having that in my portfolio too.
Absolutely. And for everybody on the call, we're going to be sending out an invitation for the webinar next week. It'll be Wednesday, same time that we're doing this webinar tonight, but on the 1st of February. So that's going to be a popular one, and we're excited to roll that out. So if you can make it, sign up and make sure you get the recording too. So, and by the way, if you have any questions, put them in the question bar on the right, and we'll make sure we can either just ask it, or even just you can pop on and ask it yourself too. So let's see, what are we seeing in the marketplace right now? Adam, from an acquisition standpoint, what are brokers saying right now to you? What kind of conversations are you having?
So brokers are in the same agreements that we're at, is that there's still a very big disconnect from sellers to buyers. It's just a very turbulent market when it comes to placing your loan onto properties. And, we're coming from this unprecedented time, at least from as I've been in the industry, with these suppressed cap rates, low interest rates. It's really driven the price up. And, a lot of sellers are like, well, I could have got this price back then. And they're really like having trouble getting off of that. And the brokers know it. They're still trying to put deals together. They're still trying to convince sellers a more realistic price. They're still trying to convince buyers to go up. Unfortunately, I mean, they make money on getting deals done, not talking about it. Same thing with us. So I think it's going to be a pretty dry market. You're not going to see a whole lot of transactions going on until that connection between buyers and sellers start to come in more alignment.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add to that too. What's that? Sorry, John.
No, I said a lot of diplomatic brokers, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, and I was talking with a good friend of mine on the lending side, sees a lot of transactions, and he feels like it's almost as though the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about how severe the contraction is from a transaction standpoint. I mean, the transaction volume in our space is just like evaporated, and it's going to continue to get even worse over the next 6 months. So, you don't want to freak people out, but the fact is there's not a lot trading right now. And from our standpoint, that's why we feel like this is a perfect time. And I'm glad we planned ahead to have some of these development deals in the pipeline, because this is not the time to be buying. You would ask me 6 months ago, I was like, yeah, we're still buying, it makes sense, still finding good value. Today, it doesn't make sense. And I don't think it's going to be there for another 3 to 6, maybe 9 months. But It is interesting though. The transaction volume is literally just evaporated, and it's both sides. It's not just buyers and sellers. It's lenders too.
Mhm.
Lenders just, they don't know how to underwrite it. They don't have capital. People don't want to invest. It's literally a flip flop from what we saw a year ago. But that's how it works. It's feast or famine. It's everybody's in or everybody's out. Go with the herd mentality. So.
Great. Well, I got another question here. If interest rates remain 5% plus for the next 3 to 5 years, how does that influence your ability to refinance properties? Is it still feasible? How do we navigate that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge for any short-term debt. Now, if you got 7 to 10-year agency fixed rate debt, you're probably okay. Although even some of our 7-year, 8-year debt, it'll come due in the next 5 years. But I think that's going to be a challenge. So the only way to overcome that is going to be to really, really focus on operations, meaning you got to drive your rents and you got to manage your expenses. And that's something that nobody's had to do over the last decade. I mean, you could just literally hang on to that thing, barely keep the P&L alive, flip it, and double your money. And now you're going to lose money unless you really drive that operational capability. So, I don't think it's not doable, but it certainly is going to be a headwind. Well, if that happens, I don't think it will, but if that happened, it would be a pretty significant headwind to the overall return metrics in the market. I mean, I will say this much. People say, well, gosh, then I don't want to invest in multifamily. Well, let me tell you something. If the interest rates stay at 5% for 3 to 5 years, you're not going to want to invest in anything. The market's going to be terrible. Oil's going to be terrible. Gold's going to be terrible. Real estate, it doesn't matter. So again, you kind of look at it, all right, well, in that case, yeah, I'm still going to be in real estate because it's still going to provide the best return of the options that are out there, given the risk profile. So,
sure. And tax advantages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Robert, can I just keep it under my mattress?
Sure, you could, Adam, and it will erode in approximately 15 years to roughly zero. Yes.
Right. You're not wrong.
You mentioned operations, Robert. For folks that don't have a big viewpoint behind the curtain on what it takes to run a portfolio, run a larger property in its own right, what are some of those things that people can be focusing on right now, or that REM's focusing on right now, to better the operations of the properties?
Sure. Well, I would say rule number one, if you're sitting on the outside looking in and you're thinking, man, one day I want to own my own property, I want to manage it, and I'm going to make a killing. Let me just tell you something. Property management is not fun. Do not try it at home. No, I mean, I'm kind of joking, but kind of serious. It's a lot of work. It is a very people-intensive business. The industry as a whole is not, it's not exciting. We don't get the top students from Stanford and Harvard saying, "Oh, I can't wait to go into property management." And again, not to say that you got to be, that's all you need to run an exciting business. But I guess my point is that there are not as many people in our industry as we really need. And so it's a pretty fierce competitive environment to attract and retain good talent on the operational side of the business. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of companies that are successful, which we are, we're growing, so we're working towards this to some degree. A lot of companies that are successful, they have two main components, which I think are really key. As we've heard 1,000 times, people don't quit people don't quit organizations, they quit bosses. And so again, trying to get the right people in the leadership role is really key. And then just providing the resources for those folks to enable them to do their job, enable them to enjoy their job. It's not an easy job being in property management, but obviously somebody has to take care of these properties, has to provide a safe, reliable place for millions and millions of people to call home. So it's not a business it's not a industry or a job role that's going away anytime soon, if ever. So, great job security, which is great, but it can be a tough industry. Not so much at the A class, the nicer, newer stuff is a little bit easier, but the workforce housing, especially the value add stuff that we do, you're dealing with some challenging residents, some challenging demographics that, it takes a while to kind of weed out the problem children and really hone in on the good folks. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I will say this much: it's a very rewarding business too. I think we sometimes overplay the challenges, but as we've said many times, we've heard the phrase "no pain, no gain," and there's a lot of truth in property management. You put in the time, you put your head down, you do the right thing, and when you turn a property around, it is very rewarding because the residents are extremely the good residents. I mean, they're extremely thankful because they live there every day, and now they don't have to worry about getting shot when they're walking out their front door. I mean, that's kind of important. So,
well, the two sides of the coin. I mean, you have the tough side where you have irate folks. You've got people that aren't very thankful for really anything. People that choose not to pay and they try to avoid you for as long as possible, or at move out they've chucked the keys behind them and trashed a unit. Unit fires, building fires, floods. I mean, you name it, it happens. But on the other side of things, when you step into a community and you have a lot of money that's changing hands. Once you're redoing a roof, you're painting all the units, new plumbing, new landscaping. So there's a lot of money that changes hands there. The people that live there that are actually your clients, your ideal demographic, they start seeing the changes. There's pride in ownership there. They're excited to live there, and the surrounding area starts to change too. And I think that's kind of what you're speaking towards, Robert. Is seeing that take place is pretty exciting. Much like the Dallas property that you were just at, Millennium.
Yeah.
Or Westbury, excuse me.
Westbury. Yep. And that was one of the things that folks at Westbury said. I mean, they're like, we've been here for 10 years, 20 years. Nobody's taking care of this stuff. I mean, 20 years. It's just crazy. Like, nobody thought to clean out the drain. Nobody thought to put the sod back in. Nobody thought to trim the trees. Nobody thought to fix the side of the building. I mean, it's kind of bizarre, honestly. Just the level of lack of care. And again,
I think
what do you say?
Different philosophies, Robert. Sorry,
Yeah.
on the business of multifamily ownership and investing. And I think of one of the residents that we were when we were doing unit walks in San Antonio at Marbach. I think that they had been there since like 1990. It's a 1982 build, which is amazing, and it was a vintage unit.
Right.
It was classic unit. So pretty fantastic. But
so I did want to add, Robert, you were talking about the people on the team, and it's a very hard job to do property management. I will say that we have a lot of rock stars on our team, though, that they love what they do.
That's true.
And I can see it. There's been some really great stories and how we've been impactful on lives. We've talked a little bit about that, but it's one of the most rewarding jobs that I've seen, just because you're impacting where people live. So a huge portion of their life. So yeah, I just, if we can build off of the rock stars that are on the team and continue to recruit the additional rock stars as we continue to grow, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next couple of years we're able to do.
Yeah, that's well said. Well said. So I've got another question here if we want to move on. From a limited partner perspective, compare and contrast the new development deals versus the existing cash flowing deals. And I think I can start that one off. So when I'm speaking with investors, it's something that I always, want to pick around on and identify with them is, well, what are your motivations in real estate investing, and what do you want to participate in? Because, they're kind of different animals. At least for our development deals, it's going to be patient money where you're not going to see that immediate distribution. we're essentially, the true value add is taking some dirt and then making something out of it. So, it's going to be, depending on the size of the project, 2, 3, maybe even a little bit more years before you're finished with construction and stabilized. So that at that point in time, then we're converting, from that construction debt to a longer term debt. And that's when you would actually see something now. But those folks that wait and they have that patient money, they're typically going to experience a really great equity multiple, in that time frame, versus somebody that steps into a cash flowing deal. You do see that little drip of cash flow coming back your way, month one, which is exciting. You're going to have the tax benefits too. Obviously, some folks, they forget that when I initially talk with them, we're not doing cost segregation on the dirt because you just can't depreciate that dirt. So it's going to take a little while for some tax benefits to come your way if you continue on through, keeping your equity in the deal once it's finished and stabilized. So a couple things there, but Adam, Robert, comments there?
Yeah, I think you said it well. I mean, it's basically 2 to 4 years on a development deal to double your money. Typically, it's 5 to 7 years on a value add deal from a net return. The difference is it takes longer to double your money, but you're getting cash flow all the way through. The other, you're putting more on the back end. Now,
Sure.
That being said, to your point though, 2 to 4 years rolls around, you refi that debt, you're going to get a nice cost segregation at that point. You will, which would be nice. And you're going to get some good cash flow. So, again, I really advocate most people do a mixture. I think it's great to have the stabilized deals, but I think if you've got, like you said, a little bit more patient capital, you don't need the distribution today. You've got a couple years you can wait. Then I say absolutely, throw some A-class product in there, because it does have a different demographic from a credit standpoint, and that's nice to have. Your workforce housing is going to be more consistent. Typically, it's going to get more of the upside, but your A-class properties, they may not have as much upside on the rents, but they certainly have better credit quality. So, in an economic downturn, you're probably not going to see the huge rent bumps that you're seeing in the value add space, but usually your credit quality is going to hold up a little better. So again, there's pluses and minuses to both. And I think, again, that's why we wanted to build out the development side of the business, because we wanted to have a nice, well-rounded portfolio for ourselves, which, same reason we're advocating for all of our investors too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I think that Oliver put a question out there that I saw. He asks, do you have an interest rate cap on all of the bridge debt that we currently hold?
Sure do.
I was listening to another very well-known operator yesterday, and they were going over their portfolio and mentioning that they had a couple of things where they did not, and so that's certainly something that they're focusing on, and I think that that's a hot topic right now, and with a lot of operators, everybody's looking at their portfolio and keeping a close eye out on what they need to be concentrating on. So
yeah, I mean, that, I think it's true. There's certainly some added risks of not having a rate cap. But I mean, at the end of the day, let's just say you signed up at 3% and your rate cap is 5 and the Fed's, going to 5. Okay. Yes. You protected yourself in case the Fed went to 8. I don't think they're going to go to 8, but you've got some protection there, but the point is you're still paying for that spread. And I find that most of the pain in the market isn't so much from people that don't have rate caps. It's that your interest rate went from 3 to 5. And if you think about that on a percentage basis, it's monstrous. It's not a double, but it's almost a double. So interest being call it a 20%, 25% line item at the end of the day, doubling, that's a pretty big number. So, I think that's something that is affecting a lot of us in the business and definitely constricting cash flow, because the interest rates have gone up a lot faster than the ability to raise rents. Now, I do think the rents are strong. And I was telling somebody the other day, in some cases, it's a little bit like printing money, but you can only turn the building so fast. You can't just empty the place out and start over. So, it's a 12 to 24 month cycle where you've got bumping rents, and you can't just bump people's rents $800. So it takes time. So that's been one of the biggest challenges right now, is rates have gone up so fast, and the market's good, but you just can't adjust fast enough. So, again, I think the good operators, they'll adjust, they'll catch up. And I think by that time, the rates will probably come back down. But even if they didn't, they'll catch up, they'll get the cash flow where it needs to be. But in the meantime, it's going to be a little painful from a cash flow standpoint. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I've been having a lot of conversations with new investors that don't quite understand, how long it takes to really implement the business plan we're doing on the value add side. Villanueva in San Antonio, that's 304 units.
Yeah.
And not everybody, you just don't have all the leases starting over the next month. I mean,
right.
It takes a long time to really kind of, get the on-site management really in tune with the resident profile and figuring out, hey, these people are great and we really want them to stay. We want to work with them. We want to see if they want to transfer units to go to a renovated one. Who do we want to release? Who don't we want to have stay at the property, for whatever reason that might be. And, it's a multi-year plan, but on that value add side, when you do that implementation of the business plan, and there's probably a few people that didn't catch our end of year where we covered city parks, upside potential, guys, which was the quick math was at 208 units, when over the medium term you go to $300 per month increase, which by the way, we're not even touching units and we're getting 100 plus. So, 300 is certainly there. That's 750,000 annualized of net operating income. And, at a 6 cap, that's equating to $12 million of value to the property. So that's really where we win, but it takes years. It takes a while to steer a ship into that, it's an ocean going vessel. I mean, it takes a while to pivot that.
Yeah. So, well, you look at that number and you say, oh, great, that's a 2x on my money. That's true. And that takes, in a normal market, that's 5 to 7 years. Now, I think we're going to do it faster than that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the turnaround takes 2 or 3 years. But it takes time. But, then again, you think about it. I always come back to this. So Warren Buffett's been doing this for forever and a day. I think we'd all agree that. And I think we'd all agree he's had a pretty darn good track record. Mm-hmm. So his annualized return, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere about 23%. Compound rate of return, annualized 23%. So if you think about that and you think about the deals that we're doing, that's, on an after-tax basis, it's very similar. So again, it's not get rich quick, but build wealth pretty significantly over the long term, and don't take too much risk. Nothing against crypto, but this is not crypto.
Too soon, Robert. Too soon.
Yeah, right. Sorry.
Well, I don't have any more questions.
It's SBF calling. I gotta see if my money's still there.
If there's anybody else that wants to put something in the chat, let us know. It's probably going to be a short and sharp one this Tuesday evening, which is just fine. But yeah, we want to make sure that you get your questions answered, and you can come on and ask it as well. Just pop it in the chat, and I can unmute you. I know somebody's got a burning question.
I got a question, John. What have you been up to lately? Is it 2 a.m. feeding or 4 a.m.? Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, if you saw my LinkedIn post this morning, it was 4 a.m. Today, and I got 3 out of the 4 pretty lined out, but there's a tough character, one of the twins, and yeah, he's got a biological clock at about 4:40, so that's what we're doing right now. That's all right.
Good times.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just looking for any business trips that might be on the horizon. Just get out of the house, get a solid 7 hours at a hotel.
Time to get a hall pass.
There you go. Well, I think we're done, guys. That was good.
Awesome.
I appreciate everybody that attended. And of course, those that didn't, we'll get a recording out to you tonight. And again, we've got that February 1st webinar for St. Pete, and hope to see you there.
Good night,
Good time.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.